this week, we have been talking all about stories, how they can help us understand the context we find ourselves in, and therefore how we can share God's story even better with the people around us. Now, as you can tell from what's behind me, I love story. I love film, I love books, I love theatre, I love any way you can tell a story. Stories are incredibly powerful and they're really formative for us as humans. Storytelling has been a part of who we are from the very beginning, from cavemen's drawings through to the oral traditions that have been passed down from generation to generation. We humans have been telling stories forever. Whether it's in a cave, around a campfire, over a dinner table, or even on our grandparents' knees, we have shared stories of who we are, where we come from, and where we're going. They're the big questions that humanity has been asking. You see, stories aren't passive. Sometimes they're reactive, but always they are active. They're the moments a storyteller is using their words to share their ideas, teach their concepts, communicate their message, share their story. And we are surrounded by stories all the time. In the 70s, there was this guy called Augusto Boal. He was a theatre practitioner in Brazil and he created something called forum theatre. It was his way of telling a story to an audience where he got them involved, literally stood up out of their seats, acting with the actors on stage. And there together, the storytellers and the audience would engage in working out what would happen if. It was a way of helping his audience analyse and interrogate what was going on in the plot and what would ultimately happen. Now, he did that because he wanted to work with the marginalised communities in Brazil to help them understand the importance of being politically aware and also politically active so that they could be agents of change, systemic change in Brazil. You see, stories help us communicate and they help us problem solve and they move us into action. You know, when I was at drama school, I was told that I shouldn't try and mix my faith with theatre because storytelling was too powerful a tool to put in the hands of religion. Well, it's a good job that Jesus didn't take any advice like that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the parables. Though, to be fair to my lecturers, they are pretty powerful stories. And for those of you who know me, I didn't really take that advice to heart. I love to use stories. In fact, it's my favourite way to share my faith with those around me. Especially, if I'm honest, the stories that aren't meant to be about God. I love the fact that humanity was made so much in God's image that even when we don't know him, even sometimes when we don't like him, our stories are still all about him. Questioning and looking at his creation and often reflecting his character and his nature. I love that about how he made us. You know, authors like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, William Young, they all use their storytelling gift to intentionally talk about Jesus and about God. And that is such a gift to his church. But I love to find the hidden gifts. The times when God is peeking out of the pages of a book, where he is peeking out of the screen of a film. When I didn't even know that he had claimed that story, I found him. Stories for me are where the secular of our world can mix with the sacred of God's kingdom and find harmony. Not always, not all stories, but a lot of the time, secular and sacred can become something really beautiful. Psalm 34 says, "Taste and see that the Lord is good." Stories help us do that. They help our imagination to taste an aspect of God and see what it might look like for that to be in our world or even in our lives. And because it's a taste of God, it really is good. I love sharing the good taste of God with those around me through the films and the books and the stories that they already know. I love to point out that God's father heart looks like a little clownfish called Marlin, who crossed the entire ocean to rescue his little son Nemo. Or to talk about the sacrificial love of Jesus and his passion for justice and the cross and the sacrifice through Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino. Or the single-mindedness of God's love that can be seen in the single-mindedness of Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory when he tries to rescue his battle ostrich. I love to take the moments where someone has so identified with a character and talk about what I think Jesus would say in that situation or to that person. I believe in those most secular of stories, God is there, just waiting to be spotted and shared. I took a very, very precious friend of mine to see the Lego movie quite a while ago. And he was the kind of friend who knew exactly what I'm like and knew that I love to find God in the movies. And he also knew that I pray before pretty much every film I watch, God, show me where you are. So at the end of the movie, he turned to me and he said, I found him. Did you? And then that little boy, who can't have been more than 7 or 8, talked to me about God's love and Jesus' passion, and he shared with me exactly how he was going to be able to explain that to his friends when they'd seen the Lego movie. Stories are incredibly powerful, and they equip us to share God's story with the world. Well, at least God equips us through them to tell his story. So I want to encourage you, next time you watch a film or read a book, why not ask God to show you where he is so that you can point him out to someone else?